Welcome to Cylinder Radio. I'm truly trying to have an impact on high school education here. So my guest today is a high school friend, and our topic is those who can't do teach. So my guest is Zach Maslany. He's the co-owner and co-head coach of Finishers MMA and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Bethlehem. He trains youth. He trains adults. And what he's able to do, what he has been able to do in a very short amount of time as a martial arts coach is really fascinating. I think that teachers, whether it's in martial arts or in the classroom, can learn a lot from Zach and how he's achieved such success. So thank you, buddy. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me on, bro. Really appreciate it. It's cool to be able to sit here and talk with you. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and now now you got your podcast running and we can finally get it going.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's funny doing this in like a formal session because we talk all the time on the phone and stuff like that. But actually we do miss each other a lot now because we're both so busy. So now it's like a formal way that we can actually talk.
Yeah. And the time difference too always throws me off because I forget sometimes that you guys are asleep still, probably, or now with the kids, you're probably up super early anyways. But and I feel like a lot of times we should have recorded. It would have been nice to just record some of the conversations that we've had already. We could have easily used them in like a podcast form or something like that. So, like it's been, I think our high school career, I think kids would get a kick out of, the way we were in high school. Nowadays, I know you're in the schools. Like I know it's probably much different now than it was when we went to school.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also an East Coast, West Coast part of that too, because we're from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is like a steel town. It's a pretty blue collar town. I don't know if it's that much anymore, but when we were kids, it was not like rough, but just like maybe just a little rough around the edges. It wasn't a lot of like high intellectuals there and stuff like that. There's a lot of like steel workers left over and things of that nature.
Yeah, and a lot of people just kind of. I mean, I know it's different everywhere. I know a lot of people in Bethlehem would work their 40+ hour job, work like a dog. And then when the weekend hits, Friday, Saturday, people are getting it in. And then on Sundays, most people just sit around and watch football. And they pretty much waste their whole day on. I mean, I used to be one of them. They pretty much waste their whole day is football. Nothing else happens, maybe a little shopping in the morning, but then after that it's football. So that's kind of like what we grew up with. And, I know me, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do, but like, I wasn't the greatest. I wasn't the most, and it's different. Like we could talk about that too. Like whether you're smart or you're intellectual or what you think. Like I definitely was not good at taking tests. So like in school, I just figured, hey, I'm going to go to the local community college. High school, everyone gets into the local community college. They don't deny you. You might have to take a couple like pre-tests to get you in, like to see where you fall and how many classes you have to like retake. But I knew I was going to that. So honestly, I kind of bagged it in high school. I just kind of was like, I'm just going to enjoy this, have fun, and get in a little bit of trouble, but nothing serious, just stupid things and messing with teachers and stuff. So.
Yeah, we kind of mimicked that behavior, like the idea of like what our town was, because like I knew I was headed for like a state school. So I was headed for one of the local state schools. It'd be like Bloomsburg or Westchester or Kutztown or one of those. And I knew I needed 1,000 on the SATs and basically a 3.0. So that's where I was aiming. I was aiming just like, where is the minimum bar? And then I'm going to go for that. And it's interesting because like, even though like our bars were a little bit different, it was just like, well, okay, this is what I'm aiming for. I'm not going to shoot any higher than that. Why would I ever do that? So what's yours? I think that what I would like my audience to know a little bit is, your story, the abbreviated version. Obviously, I've been there for a lot of it because we met each other in like 7th or 8th grade or something like that.
Yeah, it was probably like 8th grade.
Yeah. But just your process of how did you get to the point where you are now? Like, I mean, it's a lot, but essentially like out of high school, getting into martial arts in high school or even before high school, all the way up to now you have this school that's like well respected across the country in a real way. Like, can you just tell your story just for a couple minutes for us?
Yeah, I think like I was thinking about this too the other day and just how the best way I could explain, like people are like, well, how did you get here? Like I'm 35 now and I make a living off martial arts and I do a bunch of different things to make sure I do a little bit better than just eke by. Like we have the MMA jiu-jitsu school, which we're running. That's like our main focus. We have a tournament that we run, a submission only jiu-jitsu tournament. I have my own podcast, which I just started. Just, it's basically free form. I'm just talking, random nonsense. And then we also have another podcast that we make a little bit of advertising money from. And then we also, what else do we have? I'm looking into starting up my own, like, not MMA, but combat jiu-jitsu organizations, like a fight promotion. So I'm looking into that. Working for like a couple different companies, like as like a I guess, how would you say, like an advocate for them, like the mat company. Like every school has mats, every gymnasium has mats, or every dojo. So I'm like kind of working with the mat company. I get a little kickback from that. So I have all these little things. Oh, we have it's fairly successful, at least in our little world, apparel game, where we're just like constantly dropping stuff, and we have a couple different accounts where we're putting up t-shirts and stuff, and we're selling them. I learned a lot of that from Joe Rogan, from other podcasts and stuff. So I have all these different, modes of income that I'm working with. But, and the reason why this brings me to my story is like, it's crazy that I get to do this as a living. But when I was in high school, like we were just talking about, I pretty much bagged it and was like, I'm just going to go to the local community college. I'm just going to have fun in high school. I'm going to continue to do martial arts, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. I figured maybe I'd get a college degree, and worst case scenario, I'll be a cop or something like that, right? Even though that's not the type of life I was leading when I was a kid. I just figured, hey, doing martial arts, if there's really a hard way to make a living, and back then people were into karate, and my instructors made money, but they weren't making the type of money you can make now in martial arts, because it's grown so much because of UFC and popularity. So basically I went from not high school dropout, but I would say average student, C plus, probably could have been B, C. I get a D every now and then, but it was mostly C's and B's. But I always passed every class. So, but I was probably like a mid-level C student, not trying at all. And then I went to Northampton Community College. I went for about a year. I was going for criminal justice. I just stopped going to do martial arts and to fight and stuff like that. Had a little bit of falling out with the team I was training with. Started doing construction. I was doing concrete. If any of you guys have ever done construction before out here on the East Coast, it's not fun. I could see myself, if worst came to worst, being like somebody who does construction on the West Coast, because I'm sure it's hot, but at least it's warm. When you're going from those hot temperatures, and it's freezing cold and it's negative, like right now out here it's freezing. I would be doing concrete finishing, and I'm only 145 pounds. Maybe 160 at my heaviest, and lifting those things that some of those big guys could do. Plus all the guys had drinking problems and problems with their wives and stuff like that. And, one day on a roof somewhere, I was doing a concrete job, and I just was like, you know what? I need to go back to college. Went back to college, put myself through back to community college, finished that off. Then I went back to, I went to another school, I think DeSales University in Allentown. I went, or like Center Valley area, Pennsylvania. I went there, finished my 4-year degree. It took me a while, got my diploma, started working at Northampton Community, or Lehigh Community College, or Lehigh Community, basically the probation department. I was working with kids, and I was doing a good job. I was working my whole way up. I worked all this stuff just to eventually quit my job and go back and do martial arts. So it's been a long time, but it's like, I had these dreams of doing it since I was a kid. It just, it took me a roundabout way. You know what I mean? I had to learn a lot about myself, and,
I mean,
everything.
you got into fighting when you were young. I mean, I remember like when MMA was like a very new thing. I mean, you were fighting at like 19 years old. We were like, it's like 2000, early 2000s.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I remember you're doing this stuff, and a lot of it was like, bare knuckle basically, and things like that. And it was like odd, but it was cool, obviously, but it was like a little odd.
Yeah, people didn't really know. There was no barometer on what to like compare it to. I never fought bare knuckle, but I saw bare knuckle fights. I
Yeah.
saw a lot of the bare knuckle fights. I think I might have did one match where it was like you weren't wearing gloves, but you couldn't close fist punch. You had to like slap.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you could do like what is combat jiu-jitsu today, kind of. So I did, but it was like when I explained it to people, it was all underground. Like people knew about UFC because you worked at the video store and we saw those videos. But if it wouldn't have been for that, we wouldn't have even known about it. I wouldn't have looked in the special interest section where they had fighting videos. Or if you did, it always looked like some really crappy footage of somewhere in like Brazil, which I didn't even know was cool back in the day. But I was like, I'm not watching this. Everyone was so used to Chuck Norris and karate and stuff. So everyone thought I was really only doing. They'd be like, every time I saw someone would be like, "How's karate class?" And I'd be like, "Well,
Right.
it's not really karate class, but I mean, I did do karate though too."
Yeah. Like, I mean, this gets me to like what the topic for this conversation is, or the cylinder is those who can't do teach. And that's a statement that used to really offend me. I mean, up until recently, probably within a year is when someone say that, and I'd be like, I can do plenty. How dare you? Like, I can do a lot. This isn't like that seemed like it was like a fallback plan, or like I failed at life, so now I have to teach people how to do life or something like that. And then I had this epiphany 6 months ago when one of your students, one of your top students, young guy. How old is John? He's like 24 years old or something like that.
Yeah, he's 24. I think did he turn 24? Either turned 24 or 25, I forget. But I think he just turned 24.
Yeah. So one of your students just got in a very high profile martial arts competition, and just like kind of shocked that world a little bit at how high his level was, and just like ran through the competition. And he was not expecting. I mean, these are all full-time martial artists with like dozens and dozens of students or several schools, and he's a full-time electrician who's been training for less time than some of these guys have had their black belts, and he wasn't even a black belt, and he came in and just like smashed them. And I was really like affected by it. And I saw, you guys celebrating on the mats and things like that. And it was a weird thing because it affected me a lot. And granted, I was like fresh out of the hospital after everything that happened with me earlier this year. So I was probably extra emotional, but it made me realize that statement, those who can't do teach. And I think what I want to the audience to hear, and this is for young people or old people, that if you have a passion, just because it might not come easy to you doesn't mean that you can't gain the knowledge to pass on to others. And that's what I see it as, because I'm in this intellectual realm. I'm going tonight to have a conversation with Jordan Peterson. It's like crazy. Like I've had these conversations with Ben Shapiro and Brett Weinstein, and I talk to very, very smart educators and religious figures and stuff like that in my life. And it's like, how am I able to have a conversation with these people? They're so brilliant. It's like, I was never a brilliant kid. Like school was not like that hard, but I didn't give a lot of effort. So it was fairly hard for me. It just didn't come naturally. I wasn't in the honors classes or AP classes, or I didn't do great on my SATs and stuff like that. And then now I'm here, I'm basically making a living off of my intellect, I guess, and my knowledge. And it's so weird. And I saw a real parallel in you, because, we said, I've known you since we were like kids, like children, and you were never some like stud athlete. Like I don't even know if you played any formal sports in high school.
No, I think I played baseball, all sports when I was a kid, but I never really played football. I played baseball a little bit, but I was always really good backyard sports. Like if we're playing backyard with like someone's uncle is all-time cue. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Like I've seen you, go through your martial arts career. I've seen you get in like street fights and stuff like that when we were young and dumb. And like you were always, here's my take on it. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I saw you as like you weren't going to be able to compete with the top tier athletes. Like they just had that genetic component that you didn't. And so you had to force yourself to learn technique. I mean, even when I was doing jiu-jitsu, and I'm a bigger guy than you, but you've been doing martial arts a long time, and there were times where I could like beat you in a round of jiu-jitsu because I'm like bigger and stronger and stuff like that. And it was one of those things where like I saw you were just like, I got to keep honing my skill. It's going to pay off. I'm going to learn these skills, as opposed to just getting like buffer or stronger or something like that. You learned these like razor sharp techniques because you had to, because that's the only way you could compete. And then you got into professional mixed martial arts, and Zach, will never be like a LeBron. You'll never be a George St. Pierre or a John Jones. Like and you knew that.
Or
So
a Thor blank, John Thor
or a,
blank. Look at
or
that guy. You know what I
right.
mean?
That's the student that I was referencing earlier is, what could you control? You can't control your genetics, so you could control your technique. And then about 5 years ago, this guy, John, walks through your doors and he's so strong, he can take a full can of Coke and crush it into a disc.
Yeah.
And just this freak, genetic freak. And
He has the work ethic. Like
right.
most people too don't know about his work ethic, where he works like, people be like, oh, I got a job and a kid. And he'll be like, all right, well, I work 80 hours, some weeks 60 to 80 hours, which is insane. And he trains 5 times a week. And every morning he's at the gym for 45 minutes doing something, you know? And he trains every night too. I'm like, how does he do it?
But when you have that kind of genetic gifts, and so just like physically and mentally, just like I can just grind. It's very easy to take shortcuts. I've seen it with brilliant students. The school I'm at now, there's some really, really brilliant students. And when things come easy to you, sometimes you don't push yourself because it comes so easy that you can cut corners. You can cut corners so easily because like in martial arts, like I'm just so much stronger than this guy, then I don't need to learn perfect technique. I'll just smash it with my strength. Or if you're really smart, you're like, I don't need to learn every little detail about this problem. I can just work my way through it mentally. And like, I don't need to study because I'll be able to get an A, no problem. Yeah. And I think that what I found is my intellectual pursuit was difficult for me. Like I had to read a hard book and then read it again and again and again because my brain is not a super high watt brain. I have to really focus and I can extract a lot. And I felt like that was a real parallel with you, is you had to like learn you couldn't cut corners, because if you cut corners, then you would get smashed. So the only way that you, Zach, were able to compete at the high levels of martial arts is with perfect technique. You blend that. I blend it with these like little geniuses that I teach. And it's like my outlook and pursuit of knowledge, put it in their high watt brains, their little Lamborghini brains, you putting it in this Lamborghini, human beings that like John, is you get magic. And that's where the magic comes, is you get this person who has all of these weapons and don't know what to do with the weapons, but you know what to do with the weapons. Exactly. I know what to do with the weapons because I had to develop this over these hardships where it wasn't easy for me. And it wasn't easy for you, Zach. And I've watched it over the past, 20 years. You develop this. But now someone can walk in and you can just be like, you can take your software and put it into their hardware. And I want to just say that to the audience who's been struggling with something. Maybe you're a teacher and you're just like, I'm not that smart, or I'm really struggling with this and that. Like, tap into that struggle and get better from that struggle and really embrace it so that someday you can share that with your students.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I think when I was younger, everybody has like an idea of what they want a person to look like or how they're supposed to fight or whatever, like in the fight game is what I'm talking about. But I was never a wrestler. Like I didn't wrestle in high school or anything like that. Like I didn't wrestle in college. Like one of our buddies, Zach Maslany, like he's like, he was like the captain of Drexel's wrestling team. So like, I think of it like I got to a certain point where like, okay, I didn't wrestle in high school. I didn't wrestle in college. Now I'm going up against a wrestler, and here's a team and originally trying to make me into a guy that's a wrestler, right? I like striking. I like punching, kicking. I got good at that from the karate background, started to learn boxing, and I hit pretty hard for a guy my size when I was hitting guys my own size, obviously, but then once we got to the point where like guys had, like if you're a black belt or a high level wrestler, I'm not going to take that guy down. There's no way. So in my mind, I have to think of another route to go. How can I still work on stuff, or what way can I, figure out this problem to defeat this guy if I had to get him in a fight? Like Joe Rogan says, like high level problem solving, dire consequences. Like I have to figure out ways around it. That's how I got into certain aspect of jiu-jitsu, 10th Planet, no-gi jiu-jitsu. But I just think like maybe when I was a kid, I didn't think I was that smart, or I didn't think I could teach people or whatever. But once I got a little bit older, I started realizing like, oh, okay, like I'm learning some things right now. Like I'm learning what I can do, what I'm also not good at, but what I would want to be good at also. So when someone comes in and they have these type of skills, like we're talking about John, or like, or for like a basketball coach who is pretty creative, got a guy like LeBron James, or like when Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan was the best player, but Phil Jackson had the triangle offense or whatever. You got these guys, like, it's like the perfect storm of, my knowledge and then my partner JM, like all of everything he's learned, and then us working together, and like me taking everything, like, okay, here's what I'm good at, what I found that I can do from my own experiences of trial and error over and over and over again, and never taking the shortcut. But then here's all this other stuff that I can't or could never do, but you can, And I've
Yeah.
told him that many a times, like as a teacher, I've had to tell a couple of students, him, Grace, I would tell them, like, I would say, listen, like, I'm telling you this just to let you know, I couldn't do that. I couldn't get that guy in an armbar, or I couldn't beat this person, but I know that you can. I know you can, because you have the know-how now, which we've helped work on. And you have the physical aspect that you could do it. Like, yeah, I wasn't, dude, you see how some guys are born? You look at high school kids now, you're like,
I know.
what? Like, if I could just have that body style, or just that natural, build. I never had that. Like, I had to rely on other things besides strength, like technique, flexibility, and, game plan. It's another way of going about it. There's been a lot of guys who I know have been able to make it in high level sports by not being the greatest athlete, but they work on it. Like, I'm always working on my strength
Yeah.
aspect.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a perfect example. Tom Brady is, he's a good argument for he's the best football player of all time. Best quarterback,
look at his coach.
Yeah. Look at his coach, and then look at like, his draft pick, all that kind of stuff. He's not physically gifted.
Yeah, no.
But he finds another way. And I think it's really good news to hear this conversation, because when I got at the school that I'm currently at, it's a fairly prestigious, like, private school, and every teacher there is smarter than me. Like, every single one. I came in, I was like, oh my God, it's just like Stanford and Harvard and Oxford and all these things. I was just like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? I tried to mimic their style my first year there, and it failed. It flopped. Because kids would ask me all this information. I'd be like, and I just make stuff up. Like, thank God I kept the job, because I was just making stuff up. They'd ask me, like, what's the Wilmot Proviso or something like that in U.S. history? I'd be like, oh, well, that was when Britain did it. They're like, no, it wasn't. I was like, oh, no. So I had to be true to myself. I had to not be someone else. I had to do it my way and say, like, what do I bring to the table that all of these other people don't? Like what do you bring to the table, Zach, that a high level wrestler doesn't, or something like that? I think it's important. The reason I could have gotten another teacher on this podcast. I'm friends with a lot of teachers, obviously, but I wanted you, not just because you're my boy, but also because martial arts is something quantifiable, especially jiu-jitsu. It's like running or like weightlifting. Jiu-jitsu is it's submission grappling, which is basically like wrestling, but you can do chokes and joint manipulation and stuff like that to get someone to give up. And if you can beat someone with a joint manipulation or a move, then you're better than them. Like, I mean, that's just it's so quantifiable of like who's better in this situation. It's not like a debate competition, or like a debate that you see on YouTube. It's like, who won? It's like, I don't know. It's all a matter of opinion. There's no like subjective, winner. It's objective. You're better than this person, and it's so quantifiable. So I think that's why martial arts is important to understand. But when you can't get, you don't do the traditional route. You have to kind of build your own path. Adam Grant, out of, I believe, UPenn, he wrote a book called Originals about how, the world is changed by people who think differently and stuff like that. There's a bunch of, things like the Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it's just like, it's like this things we're talking about. It's the 10,000 hours honing your skill, doing something differently than everyone else. And that's what's gonna, be a big change. So, another thing, when you, like, I wouldn't say that you failed as like a martial artist yourself, because you've had successes and stuff like that, but you didn't reach like the top level. And I think there's a lot of people that want to get into, being, a baseball player or an NBA player or something like that. And like, you probably won't. I mean, look at the odds. You probably won't. But you can teach it. Maybe you can get to the top level. I'm not going to invent a solar panel that's going to, change the world. but maybe one of my students will,
Yeah.
and the pride that you have when your students do well, my experience, and I've talked to you about this as well, it might supersede the pride you have when you do well yourself. Like
Yeah.
it is a different feeling. Like I have children now, and like when they do well, that's clearly like I like that more than seeing their happiness more than mine. But I get that even as a teacher, man. Like when my students do something really incredible, and I had something to do with that. When it's like, Mr. Roosh, like I got to this and that, and thanks to you, you helped me with this, and it's like, whoa, that's so much better. I don't like the spotlight that much either. So like when they get something big, it really connects with me. You have something similar, right?
Yeah, I've never, like, some of those things, like, I've never felt like I've never won $20,000 in a jiu-jitsu tournament
Yeah.
before. So when one of the guys, when he does that, it's like a whole new feeling for me, and like it's addicting. It's just like I'm winning, he wins, I win. Like if you have that mentality, sometimes I see people, the coaches, they want to take all the credit and stuff, and I tell John and I tell the other guys too, like, I didn't do it, you did. But, together we did it, but you're still the guy who, because that's the other thing that's helped me, the competition aspect of it, and going out there and losing and winning some and losing a big one. Then I know how it feels. So when I tell people like, yo, I don't have to be a jerk coach or like be, really like, I can promote them all I want. Cause yeah, I am the coach, but also I didn't, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't have to be like, it was all me. I'm like, I
Right.
know how it feels. I know you did it. You still had to pull it off. Because even when I know how to beat the guy and I still can't beat the guy, man, it's tough. And you think about it and you're like, and then I tell him, like, one example is like one of our guys, Gabe. Um, he was in like a submission match with the same guy, right? He had to face the same opponent, beats him the first, or taps him out the first time, comes back, and I could tell he was tired. And then they get like a minute break and have to go against him again. Now, anyone who's done jiu-jitsu, it's hard to tap someone out once. It's hard to tap him out twice, even another skilled guy right in a row. And he came back and he's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, I just gave him the move that I thought. I said, hey, this one might be wide open. He went out and he hit it. And he came back and he was like, bro, that was all you. I'm like, no, dude, that was you. You did it. Like, I'm sitting here looking at this objectively while you're fighting the guy. And I've been in these situations a million times and I've learned from that. So now I look and say, hey man, to me, it just seems easy. It's like almost crazy that it's my job sometimes, but I put so much into it on the back end that's why I'm reaping the benefits now. Like I really did all the hard work, I feel. So now it's like, it almost seems like easy. Like give me another person that is really like, I got another kid now who's like he was wrestling for Kutztown and he's training now, and his guard game is he's starting to get a pretty good guard game. He's got the North Sea, he's got some chokes. I'm like, all right, now I got another one. It's like,
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it's not, maybe I wasn't clear, and I want to make sure I clear it up, and you did a good job. It's not taking credit. It's not, I don't need the credit. It's enough to see the results. Like it's odd if you're not a teacher who's had like successful students, it's really hard to explain. Maybe it's something similar to your kids. But like, the whole, like those who can't teach, like, fine, you're right. I can't do that. And it's fine. But seeing you succeed truly gives me like a wonderful feeling. And that's my currency. Yeah. Like as a teacher, my currency, I don't need you to thank me at some like award show or anything like that. It's not about that. It's seeing your success and being there for that process. Like and maybe for me, it would be like, staying after school or, these long email exchanges, or when, a kid had a tough time with their parents and working them through that. Like, I know what got you here. And like, for you, it'd be the same thing. It's the hours in and out, the drilling, blah, 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 the injuries, all that stuff. Like, it in your heart. You don't need external gratification. You don't need external adulation, I should say.
Yeah, I would
people be like, it's all you, Zach. Yeah. You're a great coach. It's like, no, I don't need that. It's just, I know it.
You know what the thank you is to me? Just keep showing up. Just keep showing up every day. And let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's not change the route that we're on. You just keep showing, like the guys will be like, oh, dude, thank you so much. I'm like, dude, don't, just keep coming. Just keep showing up here every day. And now we have like it's a lot of fun. Like I'm cutting weight right now, so I'm like barely sipping on some coffee, but I'm weighing in tonight. I have a match tomorrow. My partner JM is still competing. Like we've been competing forever. Like now I'm finally getting a guy my own age, which is cool. So I'm still out there doing research and development, and now it's just fun because, people aren't expecting me to, win the worlds or win the ADCC or the high or EBI. Like I'm not trying to go to EBI or any of those though. That's the cool thing. I'm just taking matches here and there because I still can do it and I have fun doing it. And then, my students are in a lot of times. Sometimes I'm on the undercard and they're in the main event, which is
Yeah, of
totally fine. I don't, I
course.
don't, I don't feel like, oh, well, this guy got better than you or whatever. And that's a real fast way to losing all your friends or not having anybody to train with anymore, or just have colleagues. Like I see that happen to people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like two guys are about the same, you know what I mean? And one guy gets better than the other guy, and then the other dude just quits.
Oh
They just
man,
quit.
but you want your students to leave you way in their rearview mirror. You want them to be at a level that you were just like and just impressed by. That's what you want. You want
Yeah.
you don't want students who are going to be at your level. You want them to go far beyond you. That's the whole those who can't do teach. Those who can't reach that level teach the ones to get to that level.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And I just want to say, like you brought up another good point that I want to touch on for us classroom teachers is you have to model it. When we were in high school, one of the reasons why I didn't buy into high school education was people were giving us essentially life advice. That's what high school is. It's like, here's how you build a life. You learn this math problem. You learn this scientific, like process, whatever. And so they're giving us life advice. And how many teachers were living a life that they loved or that you would want? It's like very few. Like you have to model this. I put pressure on myself to live a life that is, by my definitions, awesome. So the way I spend my time, my hobbies, the way that I parent, the way that I interact with my wife, the way that I interact with people on the street, it's like I have to model the fact that I enjoy my life, and I truly do. I really love every single day. I have good days and bad like everyone, but I model it because how many teachers dislike their lives? Like the count, I can't wait 3 more months till summer. Can't wait till summer gets here. It's like, what? Like, I hate summer vacation. It prevents me from doing what I love to do. Like, there's nothing I would rather do than teach. And now I can't do it for 3 months. How is that good news? Like that, and you going out there and still competing, it's like you love this and you're modeling it. You're not just telling other people to go, this is how you go out and you compete. It's like, I'm doing it. And I'm going to lose sometime in a model how you lose. I'm going to win sometimes in the model how you win. Like teachers, you got to listen to this. If you're not living a life that is authentic and that is truly something that brings you meaning and joy, like day in and day out, the kids see it. High school kids are walking, talking BS detectors. They can tell, and they're going to go, I'm not taking any life advice from you.
Yeah, this guy's a joke. Well, I used to do that. I did that with a lot of teachers, high school, college, even some previous martial arts teachers that I had. Like the guy would tell me to do this, and that, or even the teachers in school, and I would just look at them and, no disrespect, but they would either, be smoking cigarettes or they would be, massively overweight or something like that, and I would just be like, right away in my mind, my BS detector would go up, like you said, and I'd just be like, what, dude? Like, I don't know. Even if the guy was right, I would immediately shut it down. Be like, dude, this guy's not even in shape. Or I'd be like, this guy's not even, dude, he's out there smoking cigarettes and he's telling me about being healthy. I'd be like, dude, get out of here, man. I'm not going to pay any attention to you. Like same thing with the martial arts instructors. Like I'm going to do another podcast about the martial arts instructors and local martial arts schools that really train people the wrong way and give people a false sense of confidence because their teaching is bad, or they just want to be a big shot and fake it, and then then they criticize our school. And I'm just like, man, like first of all, you're not even in shape. You're not even living the life that you are showing everybody you are. Like how could you're eating McDonald's and stuff like that? You're not being authentic. You know what I mean? Like I'm out here and purposely making myself suffer to do this at a high level, and I love it. I'm not
Yeah.
complaining. I'm just like right now, it does suck. I am very hungry, but I mean, I'll make weight tonight because that's what I do. I've never missed weight. I'll
Mhm.
make weight, and then tomorrow I'll just battle it out with this dude, and afterwards we'll be friends, most likely. So
Kids like the grind too. Like
yeah,
they like the struggle, because when I first started teaching, kids would ask me a question that I didn't know. I'd make it up, or I'd have this fake confidence, where now I'm like, I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
what this is. And then I'll like go into it. I teach government now, and I have been for like 13 years, but the way I teach it now is so differently. They'll ask me like, what's your opinion on some controversial issue? What's your opinion on abortion or something? I'm like, sincerely, I don't know. And I'll just rattle off. I know the arguments very well. I mean, this is
yeah,
still a podcast. We'll talk about like, abortion or immigration or something on here. But like, I know both arguments really well. I've done my homework, but I don't know. And like, they enjoy that struggle because their students are struggling. They're in the midst of like figuring it out. For you, martial arts, like, what is this move? And what is this chain that I'm trying to put together for wrestling or whatever it is? And watching you struggle, they're like, oh, okay, so he's struggling. Everyone's struggling.
yeah.
Interesting. Like, people really enjoy when things don't go well. I have a friend who is
Student of the game. That's what they call it.
yeah. I have a friend who's a personal trainer and stuff like that. And he does a lot of Instagram videos of him like walking on his hands and stuff. I'm like, people don't want to see that. But what people want to see was the 3 months that it took you to get there. You falling over again, like trying and then failing, trying and failing, getting for one step. And then now, like, they want to see that process. Kids want to see that process because they're in that process.
Yeah.
So teachers the sage on a stage, I know everything, you should listen to me, doesn't work. For a lot of people, you have to bring them into your thinking process,
Yeah.
the way that you get to where you're going, because they're on that path themselves. And it's one thing to be at the end of the path saying, hey, come over to me, as opposed to let me walk with you on this path.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. It's so crazy how it parallels martial arts because it's the same deal. The instructors that out here make these promises like, "Oh, I'll get you really good in a year." When people come to me and say, "Hey, how long is it till I'm good at this?" Same thing. I'm like, I have no idea, man. I don't know. It's all on you, and you got to come here. We got to work on this. Or guys will be like, they'll be like, oh yeah, you got to learn this style and this way, and you have to do gi and you have to do this. And people ask me, I say the same thing. They're just like, what do you think? I'm like, hey, here's what I think, but I could be wrong. I'm like, I'll say it right in class. And now, exactly what you said too. I don't think I ever did this because I always knew that martial arts, you could always get your butt kicked and someone else could always come in and show you something that totally shuts down your whole game or changes your whole way of thought process about something. But it could be a certain move. And a lot of times I'll teach one move or like not even a move anymore. I will to my fundamentals class, but in advanced class, it's mostly just concepts. I just give them the idea of what I'm trying to show you in this specific position. Here's one idea and this is how I'm thinking I'm going to solve this problem. Here's how we're going to do it. And then guys will say to me like after, and then I'll just go, hey, go back and drill all these 10 things that we just kind of mentally went over. Let's go back and live drill it. And you got to be able to do that with your partner. That's how one of the ways that I've learned to really make people high level, because I give them one, hey, we're going to grab the foot like this. I'm going to try to do it like this. And then I'm thinking I could, man, maybe even if I did this, but if the guy does that, then I might have to do this. Or if he does this, I might have to just bail on the whole shit. And I'll be like, all right, go back and check this out. And then go try it. And I'll walk around to every group and I'll try it on them and they'll try it on me. And then, I got guys that'll be like, guy's 38, full-time, family man, but he comes in 3 times a week and he might look at me, and he's like one of our blue or purple belts now. And he's kind of, this isn't a specific guy, but, it's just one of the dudes. Like I got a ton of guys like that. Like it's not their livelihood like me. It's their hobby. And they might come in and say, hey, well, what if the guy does this? Couldn't you just do that? And I'll go, yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Because like, you don't know. I'm like, I could definitely work, dude. And then they'll be like, oh, okay. And then it's crazy because it makes like, then I might take a move off them and start doing it. You know what I mean? And then it'll be like, what do you mean it doesn't? Well, what if he does that? And like even beginner guys will be like, couldn't you just go to an arm bar from there? I'm like, yeah, he could. And they're just like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, anything could happen. That's the whole thing. But that's how like I found, like you said, it's like a different way of bringing the information to people as opposed to being like a drill sergeant. Like in a fundamentals class where you don't know anything, I have to show you the exact movements, where to put your hands, how to put your, where to position your hips, what to do if the guy does this. I have to show you the exact, formations and forms. And I kind of have to be like a drill sergeant, a little bit. But then once you get to a certain, jujitsu intellectual level, I don't need to do that anymore. You already know a bunch of moves. Now I just need to, hey, here's the idea. Like it could be like front headlocking to pass the guard. And you might go, oh, I never even thought of that. It could be like attacking leg locks to get the guy to forget about the guard pass. You know what I mean? It could be passing the guard to go to leg locks. And then I just show a couple of things and then you take it from there.
Yeah, and that gets, for people who aren't familiar at all with martial arts, they're just like, you're speaking Russian. Just take it as like, this is Bloom's taxonomy. Oh, Zach, you might not be aware of it, but it's like it's a very like teacher thing. Like we learn Bloom's taxonomy.
Stuff. Yeah.
And it's this idea of there's a process to it from like, how do you understand things? Or like, how do you, what's the depth of knowledge? And it's like, you remember things. It's like recalling facts. So for you, it would be like what side control is, or, something like that. So recalling facts is where in government, a lot of people just like memorize like a certain statistic about, abortions or about immigration. And this many people do this. And this is why we need to build the wall because of blah, blah, blah. And it's just like a fact. But then there's explaining concepts. So like, why is that the fact stuff? Like then it's applying to new situations. Well, if that's a situation, then how does that apply over here? Then it's analyzing, which is, this, they have differentiate, organize, like, so going into depth with that information, then you evaluate, you're like, is this good or bad? And at the top, it's like you're creating something new. And then there's another one that I really love by William Glasser. I think he's like a psychiatrist or something like that. But it says, it's right here. And it says, where it is.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've seen that before.
10% of, we learn 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we discuss, 80% of what we experience, and 95% of what we teach others. And that's, again, also why I wanted to do this podcast is if you really want to become proficient, you got to teach it. And part of that is because if you have a class or you have a person who's at least willing to give pushback, is they're going to ask questions. You got to know what you're talking about. And the way you can know something the best is by teaching it.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've learned so much more. And now our other guys, I always push them to, our more advanced guys. I always try to tell them the circle of life is you got to go back and start teaching the new guys, right? Because then when you start explaining to them a move, they're not just going to be like, sometimes they'll just do it. But a lot of times they'll ask, and that's the question that, they're worried about. Well, why do I put my hand there? Why do you got to put your hand there? And it's like, if you don't know, then, that guy might not take that seriously, but I say, listen, if you don't put your hand there, it's not going to be a good time for you. You're going to have, this is going to happen. And then you just rattle off moves, and, it's like years and years and years of learning and traveling to California and traveling to other states and going to a seminar and reading books and watching videos and trying it out for yourself and going, oh, that's an interesting thing. And going into live competition and getting your ass kicked and then sometimes winning. Yeah. And then a lot of times you learn less when you win. You just kind of like breeze through it. And you're like, I killed those guys. No big deal. Yep. Then you go out there and you get beat or it's a really hard match. And you're like, oh, okay. Now I understand what I have to go back and do. And what's crazy too, like I've gotten to train with a ton of super high level martial artists, which I never thought I'd be able to do. So I'm still, even though I've been in this forever and I've been somewhat successful by some people's standards, like I really enjoy, I fanboy out when I get to go and train with a guy like Eddie Bravo or John-Jacques Machado or Javi Vasquez or anybody, any of these guys. Like you go up to Marcelo's or, the Gracies and everybody who's in the jiu-jitsu and MMA community that I've got to train with or just talk to about stuff. And
right, and that's how, and that's how I am with like the intellectual pursuits. Yeah. Like like I said, like I'm going to a Jordan Peterson lecture and gonna just like have a chance to talk to him briefly tonight. And like
that's awesome.
Like,
I'm fired up because you're like right there.
Yeah, he's just a college professor. You know what I mean? Like there's guys like Javi Vasquez could like walk down the street and no one really cares. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no one has any idea. But I'm
Yeah.
like sitting there like, dude, what do you think about this? And he's just
I know.
telling me, well, I think this. And most of the time just listen. But I used to, when I was younger, I would always roll with the guy and the guy would beat me up or whatever,
Yeah.
or I'd do pretty good. And then I'd be the first guy in his face, like, hey man, what do I got to do to get better? Like, what should I be working on? Like, you saw my game, you saw me roll. And every guy would just be like, just keep training, man. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, what? And it'd be like, God, you need more mat time. And that's what it is. Like, that's what we tell people, like, yo, it's mat time. Because guys will come and some dudes even want to get like a private lesson, or they're trying to like really cram, like I call it
Right.
cramming.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm like, I don't feel that's a good idea right now. Maybe you take one of those lessons like in a year or two, when we can really figure out what you need to work on, or something we can add to your game. But right now, if you're within a year or less, I would say just keep coming to class and just have an open mind and see where the path takes you. Like, if you do try to do too much cramming, you're going to end up being more frustrated when it's not working out for you. If you just kind
Yeah.
of let the chips fall and just keep going, and that's all they would say. Every high level teacher that in martial arts that I've asked would only tell me two things: mat time. That's it.
Yep. And that applies to everything. There is no way around it. I had Sydney Smith on last episode, and just incredible dude. And it's just like the grind. You just got to grind it. But you don't. We talked about it at length. Is like you don't have to grind anymore. So you got to get someone into martial arts or sports or intellectual pursuits that's like willing to do that grind, and it's like is looking to do hard things that they don't need to do. No one needs to get good at jiu-jitsu. No one needs to get, a more nuanced view on controversial issues or anything like that. You can just subscribe to a political ideology. They'll tell you exactly what to think when it comes to every issue. But some people want more, and that's something that I'm going to try and promote on here. So just to kind of close it out, I want to just say like another cool thing about martial arts, just a martial arts plug, is it will destroy your sense of security and reality in a really profound way. I'm 6'3", about 185 pounds. I've been training jiu-jitsu for almost 10 years. And, off and on, I've had a lot of kids or two kids and stuff like that. I've been out a lot, but I'm decent at the sport. And when and like, I understand it, but I went to your school over the summer, and I got to roll, which is like spar with two of your students. I just roll with a bunch of them who are quite good. But one of them is the girl, Grace Gundrum. She's one of the top, if not the top, no-gi female grappler in the world. I mean, she's at least teenager for sure.
Yeah, teenager for sure. Yeah.
She's 16 years old.
She's 16 now. Yeah, she
16
just
years old.
started. Yeah, she just started fighting some of the women. So she beat the last time she competed against women was
Adult women. Yeah,
on an invitational, and they were 28 and 32. Former fighter. The other girl's a brown belt. So she just beat like two high level, adult women in competition, which is pretty good. So.
And I don't know how to explain. It's something that you can't really understand until you experience it. We were into like a grappling competition. She's 105 pounds or something like that. Little girl, and she just climbed on me like a spider monkey and just closed my windpipe. And it was and I know jiu-jitsu, and there's nothing I could do. And then I sparred with John, the guy we're talking about, and there is nothing I could do if just bare hands, if he wanted to kill me with his bare hands. Nothing I could do. It's a weird concept. He's not that big. He's maybe 5'10", probably like my weight, maybe even a little bit less. And he could just do it. It's just we all walk around with this concept like, if I really needed to, I could protect my family, or if I really needed to, then I could do this and that, or I could just punch through someone. I would get super strength. It's like, you have no idea. You have no idea what someone, when it comes to this skill, is capable of doing. It's like old Mr. Miyagi stuff, like the old kung fu movies with like the old man who could just, jump and do a bunch of flips and blah, 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 and just completely, disarm you. It's not like that, but it's that. Just, it looks differently. But it's so real. And I think that for people who don't believe it, who go, yeah, no way that this small 16-year-old girl could beat me in a fight, you're wrong. And it's like, well, if I could smash her with my fists, like, I don't think you get a chance to smash her with your fists. I think she'd grab one of your arms and I think she'd spin around your back and wrap herself around your neck and you wouldn't even see it coming. And if you want to throw fists against someone like John, like you don't understand. You don't get it. And I just urge everyone who wants to have their reality shaken a bit, like who are just certain that they understand the way the world works, to go and find a top tier black belt. It doesn't even matter how big they are. Find a top tier black belt and just say like, let me fight you and just see if I can do something. You know, I had a conversation one time with Ed O'Neill. It was, Al Bundy.
Oh, nice.
And he said because he's a jiu-jitsu black belt, he said he got into it because he went down and one of the Gracies was a lot smaller than him, got him in like mount, one of the positions where they're on top. And he said, get out. And Ed was like, I couldn't get out. And then he was like, okay. He's like, now I'm going to kill your family. Now get out. He's like, I gave 100% effort and I couldn't move this man who was 50 pounds less than me. He's like, right then and there, I signed up because it broke what I thought was possible in the world. And I think that when this is an educational podcast, you have to understand that the world is not what you think it is. It's very, very complex. It's very different. And you need to shatter your ego and your understanding in order to build something that's more truthful. And I think that martial arts, particularly jiu-jitsu, is a way to do that.
Yeah, that's great, man. That was awesome what you just said. And I feel I even know guys that we've known and people I've seen come in, try it for the first time and not even stick with it. Just getting in there and trying it a couple of times and then going hard with someone as a joke, just fooling around. And they learn like, whoa, like I see people's faces, like, because they look at me and like you said, I'm not like a big guy, but like we'll have guys come in that are from other schools or whatever, even guy who already is trained. And you kind of like, work some magic on him, what it feels like to him. Like it not only changes their mind about martial arts or jiu-jitsu, but it changes their mind on oh, well, if that's not true then, because some people will just get mad and let their ego control them and they just go away and just suppress it and never come back, but some people will go, well, if that's not true, then what else am I not trying? Am I maybe I should try eating healthier. Maybe I should try not smoking cigarettes. Maybe if, you know what I mean? Like it's opened up a lot of things for people I've seen in their minds. Like come in and go, friends of ours who have in the beginning were like, this is a joke, blah, 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 just knock this guy out. And then they've either rolled with me or come to my class and then gone, holy shit, like this is nothing like I thought it was. Like I thought that I was pretty tough. And then to hear a guy like a macho dude or someone like like a just even a high school kid or just an adult say that, because adults pretty set in their ways. Like my father, like my dad, he is completely set in his ways. But when he went up and did a little bit of karate back in the day, I could see him being like, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. Yeah. Maybe not put so much pressure, not that he was, but maybe not put so much pressure on my kids then when they're trying to do athletic things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know I'm holding myself accountable. I see when the parents come in at our school, when the parents come in and try it for a little bit and they're getting on their kid because their kid couldn't do a forward roll over the kid to do an arm bar. And I'm like, hey, can you do a forward roll? No. Like my partner, JM, like who I also owe a lot of credit to too, because me and him like worked as a team for a long time. Yeah. But JM he's a lot more brash than I am. So like a parent will be like, oh, you couldn't do that flip, Johnny. And then he'll just look at him and be like, can you do a flip? Can you do an arm bar? Yeah. What would it be like if I put you in an arm bar? And you see the parents are just like, they just go down in their seat like, uh-oh. And then he's like, come on, let's go. Let's try it. And some of the parents will try it. And they'll actually, and JM will like have them in an arm bar and like they can't get out. It'll be a joking thing, but then they'll be like, all right, I got you. I'm not going to bust my kid's balls so hard anymore.
Well, I know JM too. And he's like a little bit different personality than you, but I wish I could have him just around all the time. Just with like a guy freaking out at like Starbucks or something like that. It's just like, because JM's small. He's 150 pounds maybe.
Yeah, he's the same size as me. Yeah, that's what's cool because we're like the same. You know what I mean?
But I just would just be like, you know what? Just go into this ring real quick. Do whatever you want to him. You can swing for the fences, knock yourself out, and just because again, like what you said, but even more to then like maybe I should have a healthier lifestyle. I think that what it could get him to do is like maybe if I stood, jam against, some, just dude on the street at Starbucks who's maybe he's a big guy and lifts a lot of weights at the gym or something like that. It's like, and I asked them, what is your confidence that you could beat this person in a fight? He would be 100%. He's like 100%, 100%. And then he would lose easily and quickly. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, I think what it would be then is what you have to do is you have to reevaluate. And this is where I come in as like an educator is what else in the world are you 100% certain of that might not be true? Maybe I'm 100% certain that Donald Trump is evil or that Donald Trump is wonderful or something like that. Maybe not. Maybe you don't know everything. Maybe, you're building your world on this reality that is not true. And that's what I think the real benefit of jiu-jitsu is, because you can get it quickly. And if someone is really, startled by it, I want to have like a 140-pound black belt just around all the time as I teach. Like, go in and try and kill this guy, and he'll make you feel completely helpless. And then that could be the crack that it'll a closed mind. It'll be, maybe just like losing handedly when you were certain you could win would just be a crack. And then that crack I can seep in and get you to think about all the many things that are still unresolved in this world. And once you start questioning the world, then we can work together, not be so polarized as a country. We can start working together toward common solutions and making the world a better place, to come full circle. So
science.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Thank you. I was waiting for you to drop the science. That's like your tagline. All right, brother. Well, can you just plug how people can reach you, or what your school is, or anything coming up just before we sign out?
Yeah, sure. Like I'm always doing stuff. I guess probably, we're getting old, so I don't know the exact way. Some people are on Twitter. I have that too, but you could just follow me on Instagram. It just adds Zach Maslany, ZachMaslany. And if you want to check out our school, same thing. You can check out the Instagram there at 10th and it's Bethlehem. That's our hometown. And then also finishersmma.com. If you follow us on anything, I'm always posting stuff up. And, I appreciate you having me on. And I think, through our whole career, it's really opened my eyes on just going through the whole martial arts career path for myself and learning a lot about myself. Like, I'm constantly trying to push myself to learn new things. So if I could leave one thing, like you were taught, you gave a really great plug for jiu-jitsu, but if I can leave one thing is like, it doesn't have to be martial arts, because, they say jiu-jitsu is for everybody, but it's really not. But you might have something else that you can find to put your time into, whether it be a hobby or whether it be something you want to turn your life into. But go learn something new. Start now, because if you wait 5 years, you're 5 years behind. You could have started 5 years ago. Just jump into whatever it is and don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like, just have fun and try to learn something new. That's really all I want to tell people.
Cool. All right, brother.
Benefit you big time, but thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on, man.
All right. Take care.